Hey guys, Jackson with Wild Wolf Hobbies here, and today we're going to be doing a case transplant of this computer into a brand new fractal case. More on that in the video. Let's get started. Okay, to start off, I'm breaking the first rule of computer building or repairs or anything, and that's having an open can of drink. That monster there is just about full, and it'll almost come back to bite me in the ass once or twice during this transplant. So this computer's been my computer since 2019. I bought it relatively cheap, and it's been pretty good since I got it. It kept up with most other computers, playing high-end games, up until the past couple years where I've had to start reducing graphics quality on a couple of my favorite games, so that prompted an upgrade. This computer itself, though, has gone through a couple upgrades over the years. I ended up doing the RAM back in 2021, then the SSD the next year. Last year I upgraded the graphics card from a 10 series to a 20 series, and the only reason I made that upgrade is because it was free. This year I finally decided to upgrade to a custom-built PC. It was an expensive decision, but I don't regret it in the slightest. I doubled my storage, doubled my RAM, switched to a water cooler, got a top-of-the-line CPU, upgraded to a RTX 5080, and beefed up just about everything else while I was at it. I was thinking about just replacing the parts inside this case, but the water cooler wouldn't fit because I decided to go with a 360mm, so I needed a bigger case. Back to the breakdown video, you can see here I started with the graphics card to start, then moved on to the motherboard. Motherboard came out fairly easy, the I/O cover not so much, and you'll see me struggling to get that out here in a second. From there I moved on to the fan on the back of the case, and all the fans from this PC will be reused in other projects. I got some ideas right now as to what I want to do with them, but I'll save them for a future video. That right there is your reminder to clean your shit. The computer stayed relatively clean while I had it. You can see there that dust there. That's the only two fans I didn't clean while I had the computer. The back fan, the CPU fan, and the PSU fan were cleaned relatively regularly. Anytime I had the computer open, I dusted it off with a can of compressed air. You can see me now messing with the top cover of the computer, and the reason I'm doing this is because under that top cover is the box with all the I/O ports on the front, and under there one of the Wi-Fi cables is run, so I got to get the top cover off, expose that, so I can take that out and put it in the new PC. Once I got that out, it was on to the power supply. This one came out pretty easy. Just 4 screws on the back, and then it just slid right out of the inside of the case. Pop that out, pulled the cables out, and that completed the breakdown. Alright, so we are done with the case. Let's see, it's in a pile in the corner over there, amongst my messy ass room here. Alright, so we've got the power supply here, which looks to be a 750 watt guy. That's good enough. We've got our Asus motherboard over here. It's a Asus ROG something or other. I don't know, I'd have to look a little bit more in depth to find out the specs. Intel i7 8th gen CPU. That's just a factory cooling unit there. 2070 for the graphics card and a disk drive. RAM, we got two 8 gig sticks in there for a total of 16 gigs. And yeah, now we're gonna get started transplanting this thing over. Let me go grab the other case. So, before I talk about the case, I did do some research on that motherboard. It is a Z370 ATX board. Acer's been using them for quite some time in their Orion series computers. This case is a Fractal Pop XL Air. It was the case I was originally going to use for my build, but Amazon took too long, so I ended up with a smaller mid-size case I bought locally. I was going to return this one, but the person buying my PC agreed to take it with the old PC, and that made things a lot easier because I was able to use the box for the case to ship the entire PC, solve two problems at once. The size of the case will remove the need to upgrade throughout the next many years, because it's big enough for a 360mm AIO in the front, and plenty of room to spare for even the biggest motherboards and PC components. It also has a lot of other room to mount fans. It comes with 4 by default, and they're decent fans too. USB ports on the front are 3.0. It's got USB-C if you buy the additional cable from Fractal themselves, and it's got RGB, and who doesn't love RGB? As you can see there, it's got a secret storage slot on the front. It's big enough for USB sticks, SD cards, or extra cables, and I'm sure you could 3D print a much bigger tray for it too if you really wanted. Now that we're inside the case, I found all of the screws and the additional 3 hard drive bays that it comes with. You can also mount some smaller hard drives in the case as well, just on the side panel there to the right of my hand. And these hard drive bays can either screw into the base or on the side there where those slots are. Cleaned off the power supply, shoved that in there, and got to work screwing that in. I didn't realize at the time, but I will realize here in a second, that the power supply fan is now facing upwards, sucking hot air from inside the case and blowing it through the power supply. That's not really how I like things, plus I noticed that mesh screen there, realized my mistake, and unscrewed the power supply. I flipped it around, got it mounted properly, so now it's sucking cold air from the bottom of the case through that filter and into the power supply. Once that was settled, I sized up the motherboard and set to work on that. You can see me here test fitting it, making sure everything fits. And then I installed the I/O cover. Before I went any further, I plugged the PC in, making sure that it was off, and the reason I did this is to ground the PC itself. While I'm touching the frame, any electrostatic discharge is going to run through the ground on the power supply, which is connected to the frame, and I won't have to worry about that anymore. Motherboard went in nice and easy, just the typical screws, got that all screwed in, and then I was ready to move on. And then came the graphics card. If I had my time back, I probably would have waited till later because there was a number of issues with it being where it was, covering up different letterings when it came to identifying this motherboard for some later troubleshooting. It also caused some trouble with cable management, but nothing too bad. Whatever it is with tradition, for me, I always take off the first 2 PCIe covers, thinking that that's going to be where the graphics card sits. I quite often have to replace that one and take off one more towards the bottom because, for whatever reason, the graphics card never fits there. It's almost like it was designed that way. Once that was installed, admired my handiwork, figured out where the disk drive went, and then started to work on that. Flipped the computer around, had to remove the extra hard drive bays to be able to fit the disk drive in there,
but that took no time at all. A couple little screws and they slid right out. Once they were out, I was able to slide the disk drive in, spent some time looking for the screws for it, couldn't find them, so I opened up the bag that came with the PC case, found 2 screws that matched, and then screwed them in to make sure it was properly secured. You can see me here now tracing all the different cables, figuring out where they go, what they're for, and where they're all going to slot in. Up on the top there you have the fan cables for all the different fans, and in my hand you have all the cables that fit the USB connections and audio connections, power button, and all that stuff on the front of the case. So I'm not too crazy about cable management, but I did take my time sizing this up and putting the cables where they would go to try and make it as neat as possible. Little drink there. Started running them up underneath the case into the main area there so that they could fit into all the various different headers on the motherboard. Took some time inspecting that, making sure I knew what I was doing, knew what I was looking at. Basically blind when it comes to this stuff, and that light that's there does not provide the best light going into the case. But I then started setting all the cables into their correct headers. That's when I started noticing some issues, more of which I'll talk about here in a second, but long story short, it added a good little bit of time to the project.
Inhale and exhale.
So here's the problem. This is the original front panel connections that came out of this computer. That's the HD audio cable that goes in the motherboard. Now let's compare that real quick to the one that comes with this case. And you can see here, let me get in here, there's a bit of a discrepancy. So I was just talking with the person who's going to buy the case, and they said they're really not too worried if the front panel works or not when it comes to the audio drivers, or the audio connections. So they said I can try to cut this back and splice that old connector on. If it doesn't work, they're not too worried. So that's what I'm going to spend the next probably half hour doing. Just going to get all this flopped around, and we'll get started on that. Remember, kids, check your connections before you dive headfirst into a project.
So the slightly annoying part about this is I checked everything in PC Part Picker, and everything was said it was going to be compatible. I don't know if the new motherboards that Acer is making comes with the standardized HD audio connector or not, but this one clearly didn't come with that. So, like I said, I talked to the new owner of all this, and I said, "Hey, here's the situation. What do you want to do?" And they said, "Try and splice it on. Why not? I'm not too worried about it." And at the end of the day, they're smart enough where they can flip it around if they go to upgrade their motherboard at some point. So right now you can see me stripping back the fractal cable to expose more of it, and I'm going to do the same on the Acer cable there as well. Once that's done, I can strip back the wires, and of course the colors don't match, so that's going to lead to some difficulty. So a bit of a weird thing with the Acer connector is that 2 of the pins actually go to a shield which envelops the cable and works its way up to the panel, the circuit board on it. So I'm not sure what they do, if anything, but what I had to do to make the connectors fit is peel those both back, separate them, and then twist them into their own little cables. You can see me here now stripping each connector, and of course, since the colors don't match, I had to get kind of creative with how I was going to make this work. What I decided on doing was putting the fractal connector next to me and then comparing both connectors to see what pins went to what color on each one. I ended up seeing some weird ones like red goes to brown and green goes to blue and all this nonsense, but as long as the cables are where they need to go and the right pins, it doesn't really matter what color they are. You can see me here experimenting with a little bit of heat shrink to figure out which one's going to do the job best, and twisting back those 2 connectors that go to the shield. What I'll do is I'll heat shrink those together and make individual wires out of each one of them so they don't contact when they're in the case. For what it's worth, I absolutely hate working with small wire like this. So hard to manage. You can get wire splinters from it. Twisting it up is damn near impossible. Soldering's annoying. You can't really crimp many connectors onto it that I enjoy. I don't quite enjoy the big, 24 pin or whatever, all that nonsense. I don't have the dexterity for it at all. You can see me here now putting some heat shrink over those shielding cables that I mentioned earlier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw that in my vise and make wires out of them with this heat shrink here. Going to need a couple pieces to get them to fit, but at the end of the day, it'll all work out. So now I'm going to start twisting all the individual cables together, trying my best to remember where the pinouts are, and I'm going to heat shrink each one as I go so that my job's a little bit easier going forward. Going to heat shrink each individual cable, and then you can see that white piece I have back by my left hand there. At the end, I'll slide that over and heat shrink it all so it looks like I was never there. Hide as many problems as you can inside of your heat shrink. It'll make your life so much better. So I cut out a lot of that stuff from the video. It was just the same thing over and over again. Twist up, realize I forgot the heat shrink, take it off, put the heat shrink back on, twist it back up again, slide the heat shrink over, and then heat it up. Now that that's squared away, give it a little blow, put the mega piece of heat shrink over it, shrink it up nice and tight, and it'll look like I was never there. If I had my time back, I probably would have done black, but I don't think I had any black heat shrink the same size, but it is what it is. Took a little break for some supper there. There was a little video cut there, and now I can start running some cables. I had to reinstall the graphics card. I took it out when I was doing some of that troubleshooting just to find the model of the motherboard. But once that's connected, everything else is connected, I can push the cables in, get everything hooked up. Graphics card goes in pretty easy. Hook up the RGB for the fans there to a SATA cable. Just the power. Making sure it's all nice and pretty in there. Like I said before, the case comes with its own cable ties built in, plus a bunch of twist ties, which I reused. And now it's onto the fans. Connecting fans in new computers is a bit of a pain. There's lots of delicate wires, and you can see me here referencing the manual to see if there's anything that might help me in my travels here. Each fan comes with 2 different cables, one for RGB and one for the actual power itself. So once I figured out what went where, I set to work connecting all the fans. I started with the RGB side and then with the power side. Got them all connected. The RGB gets its power from that SATA cable, and then the fan cable itself will just connect to a fan header on the motherboard. Now, of course, I could have connected each fan to its own fan header and allowed precise control for each fan throughout the case, which, you know what, at the end of the day, the person who's buying this computer might want to do that. Pretty easy to take apart the twist ties, unplug the fans, and plug everything back in. And like I said before, they're more than capable in doing something like that. They're no amateur, that's for sure. Alright, I'm now getting the SATA cables back into place, pulling them out through the back. I accidentally disconnected one, easy enough fix. Now one of these cables will go to the disk drive in the bottom, and the other one will go to an optional hard drive, more than likely when it gets to its destination. Just gonna zip tie all these together here, make them look nice and pretty. There's plenty of room in the bottom of the case to hold extra cables, so I'm gonna make sure they all find a home inside of there. Not tangled up and organized so that when it comes time to upgrade, they're easy to access. Though I have a feeling during the next upgrade, it's probably going to be an upgraded power supply as well. Of course, can't forget about the hard drive bays. Of course, the mesh cover on top as well. Had to clear off some space here because I was having a hard time finding a couple of the thumb screws that went with these hard drive bays. Eventually I did end up finding them. And there they are. So like I said before, the hard drive bays, they can either be mounted on the bottom or on the top, or correction, on the side. So I managed to get one down there in the bottom, and the other 2 had to be mounted to the side of the case. That right there is where the smaller drives go. Had to do some more cable management here, tuck everything away as best I can. Like I said before, I'm not the best at it, but I try and make things neat, and it allows the wall of the case to slide on just that much easier. Now it's time to start worrying about those cables for the Wi-Fi. Very, very, very small cables and small connectors on them as well. You can see me here routing them somewhat decently and trying to get it connected and failing miserably. Took me quite some time to figure out how I was going to get these connectors on. You can see me here now trying to press it down from the top. There's some tools that'll come out here in a minute. Try and push those in there. None of it worked. If I had my time back, taking off the graphics card and doing it that way would have been so much easier. eventually what I decided to do is just unscrew the Wi-Fi card itself, pull that out, pop the connectors back in, and then shove it back in the case.
Alright friends, so here we are. Let's have a look at this thing here. So you guys might have noticed I was doing some heat shrink work down here. I was talking to the person who's buying the computer and they said they are happy to attempt to get the other connector to work. And they're not too bothered if it doesn't. So I managed to get that in there. Everything else is cabled. The Wi-Fi down here gave me a bit of trouble with the connector, so I had to pull it out, put the connectors on, and put it back in, and I got that all wired up now. So now it's time to test it. Let's see what happens, I guess. Hopefully I nailed it. Alright, welcome to my living room. I got the computer hooked up. It's hooked up to the TV there and working just fine. In the middle of a system reset right now to make sure it has the latest copy of Windows and make sure all my shit's off of it. Fans are good. Everything else is good. No trouble from what I can see, so I would call this a success. Gonna put the covers on it, wait for the system restore or system reset to go through, and yeah, out the door she goes tomorrow. There you go. For what it's worth, the fix I did with the audio connector works just fine. I tested that out too. Everything's good.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around to the end. I'm no stranger to making YouTube videos, but this is my first one regarding computers and the first one on my new channel. If you like what you see, consider subscribing, and I'll see you all in the next one. Cheers!